Hello, everybody. Good morning. Still, I think shouldn't say good morning. I think good morning overseas. People which are joining from US or Canada, which I'm very much also affiliated to because I participated also in different workshops as a coach, as an agile coach, helping also Canadian, but also US PhD students and postdocs. And discussing indeed not only helping, but also discussing how to make a transition from academia to industry. And for those which are joining me for the first time, I'd like to introduce, although I run more than a session, I think it's 10, I ran already more than 15 sessions I'm running about this transition, which I think it's very important to discuss it once a month. That's what I'm doing as an agile coach, supporting PhD students and postdocs in this transition to industry. I have already 7 years experience. I'm heading from Netherlands for those which are joining for the first time from Leiden Bioscience Park, which is the oldest, the largest actually, and the oldest science park in Netherlands, with more than 200 organizations, including startups, including small companies, SMEs, but also established companies like Johnson & Johnson, which you probably know worldwide. So at the last session, and I'm encouraging you also you to watch the last session, I talked about how to plan the strategically transition from academia to industry. It's not something which takes one day. It requires a lot of preparations, a lot of training, a lot of practice. And for those which don't have time, because especially the postdocs or PhD students which are just finishing up with the last, for example, publications and finishing their thesis, they don't have time really to start how to know how to start or know how to do it because there is limited time or they don't have time. I'm serving here also as a coach to help you to start with it and to help you as a coach to make this transition and prepare you for that. So for those which are watching me all very often, and I hear that the content is very useful, please also don't forget about subscribing to my YouTube channel and not only joining me during the sessions and asking questions, which I think this is the best time because I call it quality time, but also please subscribe actively so to be part of it, to be part of this community and more support each other and build this community online. For all the postdocs and PhD students which are joining my channel already or have joined. So that's a short, kind reminder. That's the way the channel can not only grow, but also that's the way we can, I especially as a coach, can create more and more opportunities once the channel is pretty big. And for that, I need 1,000 subscribers. So I think this is something when I calculated already, there I can create more and more opportunities for you guys who are listening. So today about the transition, and I hope you're going to see it well. I will make sure that everything is here visible on the board, since I'm now recording from other room. So the condition the room is slightly different here, but I think because it's higher, the board is higher, I think it will be even more visible. So I would like to start from inspiration, which I got also as an agile coach by following a seminar of Lynn Donaldson, which is from UK originally, but she spent many years working for pharmaceutical companies. And then she developed herself as a coach, especially strategist coach. And I followed her webinar because it was very important for me also to understand the role of fear in this transition. process. Her webinar was not about transition itself. It was about fear in general. How much, what is the role of fear in holding us from doing things, preventing us from actions. But I also realized that later, after this webinar, when I had more deep thinking about the transition process and all the sessions which I discussed so far, the transition is, of course, it's about strategic planning, but there is a fear factor, and might be obvious, might be not, but a webinar of Lynn gave me some food for thought to bring it in. And we will in a moment discuss this in terms of something which is also very important theme of this session, which is the process is the proof. And fear plays important role in this process. Why? Because first of all, is preventing us from making this transition from academia to industry. But secondly, it might create a process which cannot be fully explored. Because if we start from fear in this transition, then, and of course this can appear subconsciously already there, then all our thoughts, words, so the way we present ourselves will have, this fear will have direct impact on. This will lead to changes, unfortunate changes in our body language. For example, and unfortunately can lead to no actions. Or in terms of a situation where there is no time for any transition, or for example, we are unemployed during, or we are unemployed, it might lead also to desperate actions, which not necessarily play positive role. So desperate actions, I would say. So this is something which will lead then to negative results. And I'm doing it, although this seems to be, right? If you think about this, it seems to be a logical chain reaction. But many people don't realize that fear can be a playing factor in transition from academia to industry. And they don't really visualize that. And important part by even developing strategy or different scenarios, how to make successful or relatively smooth transition from academia to industry, plays a role, the process. And this is also a process. And now the whole, I think, effort is to make sure that instead of that, the fear is replaced by something which you truly value about yourself. So your personal strengths. That's where the focus should go, all the way from beginning. Not thinking about fear and thinking right away, going through this about negative results, because I'm afraid, so this will never happen because of my fear of rejection, for example, of failure, right? Fear of rejection or failure. We forget about that, which should start this process by thinking already and planning relatively smooth transition from academia to industry. So personal strengths, that's what will give you the power. And that will change the way you speak, the way you present yourself, will change your body language, and will actually increase numbers of actions. What we call very often as coaches performance. And that's what we want, right? As a coaches, but also by coaching, by coaching other PhD students and postdocs, I realized this is the key. The key performance it depends where the focus is. Is there focus on of fear of rejection or failure, or instead of fear, there is a personal strength which plays major role and results in increased numbers of action performance, which leads to not negative but positive results. So by showing you this sort of process, because I all the time, many times already discussed how important process is in this transition, how much work it requires. I wanted to also today visualize that. And I think now, hopefully, you can see the difference, right? Between fear-driven performance and personal strengths. Driven performance. And how much this is important in this transition. This is something which I think it's very, as I said, can be very well understood once I explain it, but not necessarily can be well thought how much impact fear has on our performance. And that there is really big difference in having this, what I already discussed, growth mindset in learning through this process by transitioning. And why this transition process is important, right? Or the process is the proof. So the transition, in our case here, the transition process is the proof. And you probably have heard a lot of this type of statements given by other public speaker. Trust the process. What does it really mean? Trust the transition process. In that case, it's having faith in yourself, not losing your self-esteem in the job search journey, and embracing really this up and downs lessons, and believing that things are happening for a reason, right? That even every little obstacle can be a lesson which we can learn from, right? And that's why asking for feedback is so important in this process, in the job search process. Every time you send applications, ask for feedback. And I'm also a coach which is represents growth mindset, represents agile mindset, actually, to be precise. so thinking in other people's shoes, but also thinking from different perspectives, having this adaptable mindset. The other thing which is important, I talked about fear, but I also want to talk about patience. That's another thing which is important in this process. How patient we are. So patience and trust in the process is the foundation of success, which is achieving goal, which is finding the well-matched job in that case. And when we trust this process, another thing is important to stay open to learnings, right? To stay open to getting feedback, receiving feedback. That is teaching us to stay humble. So patience, being humble, having trust in the process will lead us to a well-matched job, will lead us to reach our goals, which is achieving the well-matched job. So this is important because this setback will be not our, as many speakers say, roadblock, but stepping stone. And each moment we work on our CVs, cover letters, pitching for the job, working with coaches, have this purpose, bring us closer to this well-matched job. And I know that a lot of you would like to make very quick transition, just send CV, get a job. But this doesn't work like that. It requires time. It requires learning during this transition. It requires patience. It requires being coachable, so working with the coach. It requires being humble in terms of learning, new learnings, entering new environment, which is industry. It is not academia. So that's something which I think I like to start with, and to give you some example, because I think giving examples, other people testimonies, other people attitude, especially established speakers, established innovators, established academic scientists, it's very important. I think these are the people which can be not our only inspiration, right? We are not just inspired by this type of people. I think they can be a trigger, a positive trigger to remove the fear and focus on this process, put effort in it, work on this transition, work on a continuous improvement of any, let's say, obstacles which we are exposed to, right? And these obstacles should help us to improve ourselves in this process, in this transition process. So I'd like to read short piece about the person which I truly admire, which is not for me only the inspiration, but it's also a person which triggers me to put more actions in the process as a coach. And his name is Bob Langer, but officially it is Professor Robert Langer, which I actually would love to meet once in my life and have short, agile interview with him. So he is one of, he not only contributed significantly to development of a Moderna vaccine, but I think he truly revolutionized the field of biomedical engineering. And to some of you which never met and never heard about him, He's one of 9 institute professors at MIT. An institute professor and MIT means that this is the highest honor that can be awarded to a faculty member at MIT. And his laboratory at MIT is the largest biomedical engineering lab in the world. And his humbleness, I think, the best describe the person which is Professor Jeff Karp. He's also distinguished professor at MIT, and actually Professor Robert Langer is his mentor. And I really like this personal touch Jeff Karp is bringing about Professor Robert Langer, showing this how important it is to stay humble. So Jeff is describing Professor Robert as Bob, his mentor. And I'd like to bring some fragment of it to help you, but also to bring very close example of staying humble in this process, whatever you go through. So Bob Langer is roundly admired, Jeff is writing, as a kind of force of nature, the ultimate innovator and medical science translator. Over the course of a long and distinguished career, he has made several breakthroughs that have challenged conventional wisdom in the field, revolutionizing the way drugs are delivered. These inventions have positively impacted on an estimated 25% of the world's population, including 3.9 billion people globally who received the Moderna vaccine based on decades of drug delivery research in his lab. So these are decades of research. Langer is celebrated for his brilliance, but among those who know him, his humble nature is a legendary. He sees the potential in everyone and shows it. He makes everyone feel important. I already talked about inclusion, respecting their time, efforts, and interest. He's quick to give credit to others and express appreciation for their individual work and contributions. On projects, he points people in a positive direction and aligns them with the mission. He talks about his greatest source of pride, not as his accomplishment, but as the people who have trained in his lab. And this fragment already brought me to some other conclusion, which is that Professor Robert Langer, actually it's pointing out that whenever process you go through of innovation, of discovery, or transition from academia to industry, this is something which I didn't discuss yet. You want to achieve well-matched job. Think about, do you bring within this process, achieving this job, do you actually bring some mission with you? Think about your mission. What is your mission in this transition? To which company you want to go? Where you want to work? What is the higher purpose? Can this be inspirational for the future employer or for recruiter? Definitely yes. So, coming back to a mission. He talks about his greatest source of pride, not as his accomplishment, but as the people who have trained in his labs. This especially stands out in the academic world, where competition and ego can crowd out better angels such as kindness. Langer considers himself to be a happy person with just cause thanks to a loving family, the passion and purpose he finds in and brings to his life work. and his belief in the basic goodness of others, he says. I've been lucky, he says. His mother, a lifelong homemaker, still issues caring edicts when she calls to be sure he has dressed adequately for inclement weather. His father, who died at age 61 when Bob was 28, left him with two stories that have always stayed close to his heart, touchstones for trying times and a formative inspiration for his worldview. One was personal. My dad grew up in the Great Depression and really tough time, and he saw a lot of successful people kill themselves because they went from being zillionaires to having no money. Then he thought in World War II and had friends die. So a lot of people who didn't make it back. Those were tough things to live through. Humbling times. Whatever else happened, he says, my dad always said that he felt that every day he got after World War II was a gift that was useful to me. The other belongs to baseball history, but transcends it and is never far from Langer's mind as he works to advance innovations in medicine. New York Yankees legend Lou Gehrig died of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, so ALS, also called Lou Gehrig's disease, in 1941 when he was just 37 years old. The debilitating disease forced him to leave baseball, but the stirring farewell speech he gave at a recognition day for him 2 years before he died was a source of inspiration that Langer's dad shared with him through the years. He gave this amazing speech, thanked his mother and his father, thanked many people, and he said basically, I know a lot of people think I've been given a bad break, but today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. I've been given so much. And I thought, what a great way to look at life. Here is a guy, but ended up dying in the prime of his life from a terrible disease. And he told that the world that he was the luckiest man on the face of on the earth. Every time I think of that story and all the people who got ALS after him, all the people who have had breaks, I think, but what a way to look at life. So I would say, what a way to look at transition and life in this transition. The humble are those who are concerned not simply with the past, but also with the future, since they know how to look ahead, to spread their branches, remembering the past with gratitude. The proud, on the other hand, simply repeat, grow rigid, and enclose themselves in that repetition, feeling certain about what they know and fearful of anything new. Again, fear, because they cannot control it, right? So, of course, you cannot completely control this transition. It will depend on many different factors, but you need to stay humble. And I think Professor Robert Langer sharing these stories from his father shows that it's important to be bold in this process, but it's also important to have trust and to be humble. And I think this is these are people which went really through a lot in research. And I wanted to share you one story which he, when now he's of course recognized, very successful, but he went through a lot of setbacks because there was a time that nobody really wanted to hire him because he wanted to work and develop biomedical engineering field, and he wanted to participate actively in the research, but he was many times I would say challenged with a stereotype statement as a chemist, as a chemical engineer, what chemist knows about biology. And I think this struggle, personal struggle, was for me definitely a beautiful testimony of the process is the proof. The path he went through, the journey he went through to finally be in the place where he is now. So this place where you want to be, it's not place, of course, where everybody will find very quick. It requires also a lot of time. But to shorten this time and to develop strategy, I think in this process is very important to have coach. And that's where I step in and help you to accelerate this transition, to make it shorter. So that's something which I would like to say as a first half of this session. As I said, this is important time to talk about this. This is important time to brainstorm about this process. And if you have any questions, if you think, yes, I want to make sure that I can accelerate this transition as much as I can, and you would like to contact me, all the details you can find on the YouTube. By subscribing, you can find all the informations also there, or you can send also questions to reach me in the comments. I'm very happy to help you in this transition process. And definitely, I'm the coach which will try to focus on your personal strengths and replace the fear factor as much as possible. So that's something which I would like to comment about. Regarding current landscape, which is I would say, if you think about the interface between academia and industry, things are not evolving by the present government in good direction. This was described already in Leiden University magazine Mare in Dutch, but I also would like to translate this and give you some hints about this, because maybe some of you don't know what's going on. So in Netherlands, there have been recent already implementation of actions which lead to severe cuts in higher education, and also introduction of so-called Balanced Internationalization Act. This two severe actions of present government lead to not only reducing numbers of international students or international talent, but also saving money on education. And obviously, this was commented by many universities, and many universities start to consider their future not as brighter, but rather fearful by the present government actions. And just to maybe give you some numbers and what the present government, Dutch government, is planning. So reducing numbers of international students, the education minister, Eppo Browns, is planning to get substantial savings, decreasing numbers of students, international students, and he expects that this will lead So taking measure against internationalization will lead to substantial savings. He expects to save 29 million euros by 2026. And this will even increase to 272 millions. So tenfold more by 2029. So you can see, based on those which are listening to me from Netherlands, that there will be, especially international students which were planning to maybe continue their education, higher education as a PhD, so PhD candidates, that this will have substantial impact. Of course, for government, this is called structural saving, but for all students, all potential PhD students, international students, this means that they will probably have no future, there's no future for them, for those which are planning to come to Netherlands, in terms of performing PhD studies. Unless they have fellowships from their own countries, like sometimes happens to China. For example, Chinese fellowships allowing them to perform PhD studies in Netherlands. But for others, the future is probably, there is no future. There is no definitely bright future. And I was very sorry, since I've been in political party previously in the 66, to see these decisions are really happening. And they are the international talent, even so loudly exposed to be needed in Netherlands, is going to simply be, the doors simply will be closed to international talent in Netherlands. The other, and apparently, opinion of Minister Apple, which is actually he's academics, right? Is about that there's too large influx of international students, which apparently generates unacceptable strain on accommodation, housing, lectures full, overcrowded, and moreover, the Dutch language is under pressure. And I think as an immigrant, I like to also remind Minister Apple that I was also international student, and Netherlands very much takes, actually was always international, because Holland or Netherlands represents a multi-culti country with many nationalities. It's not a country which was built only based on Dutch. In a way, a Dutch people innovation, but international talents, which were not only getting education in the Netherlands, but they were staying, they were fulfilling job positions, and they were developing also innovation here in Netherlands. So getting, in a way, closing doors to international talent might be very detrimental to not only universities, but to higher education and to brighter future of Netherlands. So we should forget about inclusion, and we should forget, in this perspective, what Minister of Education brings in. We should forget about even creating any type of international inclusive programs, because we actually go backward, or Netherlands education system goes backward in this, from this perspective. The other thing which I'd like to bring, which current government and Minister of Education is planning, is to scrapping of started grants. So it's not only to affecting PhD students, international PhD student postdocs, but also is affecting associate professors, assistant professors, full professors who are already in employment. And they are going by, actually this is planned to take effect as early as 2005, scraping up starter grants. And I think this is also important to know for PhD students and postdocs, because this will also affect their future, right? And this starter grants, which were introduced by the previous education minister, Robert Dijkgraaf, will be removed by this minister. Apparently leading also to substantial savings, because this starter grants are which are for assistant professor, for example, they're receiving 300,000 euros. And scrapping these grants will apparently save again, we talk again about saving 175 millions per year. Euros. The problem is that there is organization to University UNL, and because part of this money is already allocated by universities. So this is really big problem, and actually nobody knows how to solve this, because there is a lot of demonstrations, there is a lot of student protests against this too. This also in fact affects directly their future. And Leiden, for example, executive board of Leiden University is feared already this sweeping cuts and then the government plans, minister plans. I think the biggest irony is that the minister is also representing. He's a physicist, well, I don't see that he's really advocate for academia here and for higher education and for research, since he's cutting not only on education, actually closing doors for international talent. The future might be what scientists already have fear, very bad for generally for science, for innovation at academia. And we need academia with industry to push innovation to the next level, where quality of research and teaching is at stake. So these cuts are, I would say, since especially the starter grants have been allocated already by universities, this brings a lot of questions, and which Apple Minister of Education will have to face it very soon. A lot of demonstrations on the streets. Besides that, what I also found important, that there are student organizations like LSVB and ISO, which are also furious about these cuts. They know what this will bring to education. It will crush education, and younger generation in this country, it's important, these are also Dutch students that are not only international students, will be ruined by cutbacks in this cabinet is planning to make. And they really clearly demand that we have to protest fiercely, otherwise nothing will change. Professors also commenting this, that these cuts are the most disruptive strike in education ever, which happened in Netherlands. And if they are implemented, the Netherlands will be a backward country within 5 years. I presume even more than within 5 years, even less. So in this perspective, where Apple Browns is creating a situation where universities and higher education research is affected so much by the savings, by cuttings, academia, future of academia is under big question mark. Who is going to support academic research if Minister of Education does not do it? So what my scenario is, there will be even stronger movement of academic scientists, even academic professors from academia to industry, to fulfill different roles. if these publicly funded universities are not going to be supported by government, their research will definitely be heavily reduced. And might happen that maybe this will happen like in America, there will be private universities like Harvard University and others, uh, which will be need to be founded in order to support research, which will come from private donations. That's what happens many times in Boston when I was visiting Harvard University. And Harvard Stem Cell Institute, or it will be universities which will simply, especially public universities, or universities which will be severely, their role in society, in education, will be severely diminished. So unfortunately, new government doesn't bring brighter future. And I think since this is happening at political level, I think this can be the most detrimental. So I think, or we need to find more collaborations with academia, more academics. Definitely, there will be more influx to industry, where maybe industry will become new niche for performing fundamental research. That's where the brightest side of this unfortunate poor future of public universities I see when we start to think about cutting budgets on funding, where the industry will play bigger role in performing fundamental research, which so far has been taken and playing. The academia was academic, so university were playing a key role. So this is unfortunately the scenario which I'm very disappointed to bring it to you, since these sessions are to make transition and discuss how to create brighter future, right, for academia, but also for future for postdocs, PhD students, whenever they make especially this transition, but also in general future of academia, because we need academia as an important factor in this triple helix of innovation where academia, industry, and government should play major role. And academia is very important key player in it. So yes, I'm very concerned too. And not only coming that I'm coaching PhD students, postdocs in transition to industry, I've been in industry, but also I'm developing consortia between academia and industry to develop innovation as a startup. So this also concerns future of many different startups or many different companies which collaborate with university, because the future of universities is under big pressure and is actually, it's not really, especially public universities, it doesn't really sound as a bright perspective. So obviously governments are changing, but well, this damage can be very detrimental because the elections will not happen very soon. This is just a very new government. So this is, I think, cannot be politically expelled in a way. But it's definitely something which concerns both industry, that's what I like to tell you, and startups, but also me, myself, also as a coach, where, yeah, I will, of course, be able to help more people making transition from academia to industry. But collaborating with academia is also important part of my activities as a startup. So it's, I think it's affecting everybody here, every key player, also startups, academic scientists, and I think industry is also very concerned about new government. Saving on education, saving on innovation, it's a bad plan, I think. It's a bad direction. So these decisions definitely will bring fierce discussions, but also fierce actions. So that's something which I'd like to finish up today. And I think we really need to be concerned about more of these transitions to industry and developing fundamental research about industry, creating, enlarging this niche, which of course is performed by big companies, big pharma. Some fundamental research was happening is also developed there, but this is only for this company's needs. But academia it's a network of universities, so it's way more overrepresenting way more representing fundamental research, and I think we all are should be involved in helping academia to survive in this way. I would say that this cuts bring academia to the unfortunately to the position where academia needs to find a way how to survive. So this is I think, something which I'd like to discuss today. And I think this was one of the most sad sessions I was running, especially bringing this last numbers on the board. Makes me really concerned about the future of academia in this triple helix innovation, but also in developing fundamental research, in creating collaborations. Where academia, future of academia is not anymore bright in Netherlands, and of course in other countries which support education and they don't cut or save on education. Definitely, this type of countries will which promoting education, which promote innovation, which invest in higher education and innovation and fundamental research, will be the leading ones simply, right? We so much love rankings when we look at the top universities, which are usually Harvard, Yale, MIT, but these universities are very much supported by not only by government, but also by private donations, by grants. They are very much entrepreneurial, so their even business model become organizations which are rather profitable than non-profitable, to make sure that the future is bright, and that innovation should be supported as much as possible, especially research, higher education. That's where this innovation process starts. So that's where the ideas are for the first time validated, especially in fundamental research. So this is unfortunately the sad part. Regarding the events, I think I would comment about few events for those which are still listening. And I hope that there are some of you which are listening, because these events are also important part of this transition process. There is an event which I'd like to bring, which will take place during Utrecht Science Week. 1st of October, between 10:30 and 4. Sorry, no, this is not third. This is another event. About this event, I will also say, but particularly this event I wanted to bring. It's for 3rd of October. It will be in Accelerator. And this is the event presented by GeneMap. And everybody looking for potential position in GeneMap, which want to learn from employees of GeneMap. there will be a session on healthcare and laboratories of the future. So I think this is the event which I would like to recommend for everybody who didn't know about Utrecht Science Week, which is going to be taking place till 6th of October, to join this particular session. And as you can look from the session, this will be definitely a session where hopefully brighter future, not in academia, but in industry, will be presented by the GeneMap. So I cordially invite all of you there. From Leiden Bioscience Park, there will be also important events. I will put the links in the comments, so you don't have to be afraid that now I'm removing them. I just wanted to highlight them. There will be Tech Talk. That's another one which I highly recommend, in cancer vaccines and alternative delivery methods, October 15. In Leiden Bioscience Park. For professionals, but also for postdocs, including postdocs, enthusiasts interested in new cancer treatments and immunology. I think this is really important event. And for those which are thinking about, well, if Netherlands doesn't offer such bright future, maybe we should think about building our future in other countries. There will be a live event, the largest biotech career event in Netherlands, but also organized in Belgium, a BCF event, which will be in Ghent this time, 28th November. I will also put a link there. So if you want to join event in Ghent and meet representatives of companies, hires representing Belgium biotech ecosystem, I strongly recommend you this event. For those which like informal meetings, that's another event which I could recommend. Now, I think in the summer there were events, but there was less events because of summer holidays. I think now there's the numbers of events is really booming. So there is maybe other event for those which would like to more informal way join the events and learn about companies. There will be another event organized in Leiden Bioscience Park it's called Life Science Cafe, organized together with organization Holland Bio, 17th of October. So this is another event if you especially want to participate in much more informal networking. So these are the events which I'd like to recommend. So I hope that everything which I talked to is useful for you guys, for those which I told you that are thinking about transitioning to industry. And I'm not only talking about postdocs regarding the start grants, I'm talking also about assistant professors which think, I don't think my academic future no longer can be further developed or well developed in academia. They think about moving to industry. I'm also inviting them for my coaching program to join as soon as possible. I think you should not wait till the last moment. I think earlier you start thinking about this transition and contacting me as a coach, early we can start, and I can help you in accelerating your movement to industry. So that's what I would like to summarize at the end. And see you next month, where I'm going to discuss other possibilities, but also possibilities in other science parks in not only in Leiden Bioscience Park, but I'm going to have a session to talk more about other science parks in Netherlands. Since I joined, and I was really glad to join Utrecht Science Week, so also experience and learn more about Utrecht Science Park in Netherlands. So that will be the session where I'm going to discuss other parks, science parks in Netherlands, so to also give you more insightful view about not only Leiden, but also about other parks and what are their possibilities to make a transition. So that's something which I'd like to already announce. And thank you very much for your attention. I hope that all these things which we discuss, which are not easy to go through, they are easy to listen to, but not easy to implement to. And that's why I'm here also as a coach to help you to implement these changes, to bring it in, to go through this process, which we so much talk about during our sessions. And I talk so much about as an agile coach, supporting PhD students and postdocs. So please let me know if you have questions in the comments. I will still put the links about the events which I was recommending, and looking forward to the next session. And take care. Bye. Warm greetings from Leiden Bioscience Park, of course.